Well, Uncle Dan,
Yeah.
I believe Uncle Doug has prepared something wonderful for us today.
Today's lesson is a reading from the book of Matthew.
Matthew and Luke.
Okay. I got one of them.
Yeah,
did.
nice job.
Thank you.
So we're going back to and Uncle Doug has done the Gospels with us before, and usually about Easter and Christmas, and what a just hot mess of garbage a good editor could have fixed. But that's not what we're doing today. Uncle Doug, what are we talking about from...
Well, I thought...
And why are you sitting up on that mound?
I can be on a mound or a plane. We'll get to that in a second.
Oh, good Lord.
A few weeks back, we did one of the parables.
Sure.
And I was kind of looking into that for today's show, and I caught sidelines.
That's a curve that has a constant... A parable is one of those...
No, it's a really active bowl.
Oh, okay.
Hyperbole.
Jesus.
There's two of those.
Shame on both of us.
Jesus.
Here we go.
So, the parables and the Sermon on the Mount are the actual, words of Jesus within the context of the Bible.
Red letter shit.
Yeah, as close to the source as you can possibly get.
Assuming that there was actually ever a source.
All of those assumptions being...
Yes, in a book that never got close to whatever source may or may not have existed.
Exactly.
This is as close, so I guess that counts for something.
Counts for something.
Hooray!
At least this is the character of Jesus saying something. And I kind of got sidelined into the Beatitudes, so I thought we'd take a little time and talk about the Beatitudes today.
All right.
And for those of our listeners who are familiar with the Beatitudes, or those who are not, the Beatitudes are a series of blessings recounted by Jesus at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount in the Gospel of Matthew.
Do we know what that word means?
We do, as a matter of fact.
Beatitude. I don't know. I've never known what that means.
The word beati in Greek translates to happiness or blessedness.
Okay.
So you know how each of these, most of the Beatitudes start with "Blessed are the blank."
Sure.
So the word was originally in Greek, it was beati. And then
which was the first hashtag in the ancient text.
Exactly.
Right.
It was anglicized into Beatitudes in the Great Bible of 1540, and then over time has been changed, morphed into Beatitudes.
Sure.
So it actually doesn't have, for the longest time as a young religious person that read the Bible, I thought it had something to do with attitude. It was like,
right, sure.
Be good attitude.
I did too. I thought it was just some Mormon scold, and I'd like. I've always hated the word because, like, girls in sacrament meeting would be giving a speech, and they'd talk about beatitudes,
right?
And I thought it was just like adjust your. What was it? Lengthen your stride.
Yeah, lengthen.
I thought
your
it was one of those
stride
things, one of those Mormon catchphrases.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like
I was like, "Fuck you."
Was that a thing? I never heard lengthen your walk longer.
No, one of the prophets said, lengthen your stride.
Lengthen your stride.
Quicken your step."
Yeah, it was meant to pick up the pace.
Do more free work for the church.
Mormons need to be faster.
Yeah.
If there's one thing we know, it's we need faster Mormons.
That's right.
We need high-speed Mormons.
We won't talk about it today, but we got to come up with a different name for the church now that they've eschewed Mormon.
Oh my God! They did a whole thing. That's going to take just as well as it took the last time they tried to get away from Mormonism, from the word Mormon.
That was an explosive moment of diarrhea. I think they're not going to be able to get back in the tube.
Oh my God,
What a
that's
mess. But
so funny.
We should talk about that another time.
Another time.
Yeah.
So,
what word are we hating now? Beatitudes.
Beatitudes. So the Beatitudes are at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount in the Gospel of Matthew, and in the beginning of what's called the Sermon on the Plain in the Gospel of Luke, which I did not know was a thing until
I didn't know that either.
So
he took his show on the road.
Yeah, he was exactly. In the book of Luke was written before the book of Matthew, and clearly, the Matthew writer took the kernel of what was the Sermon on the Plain and amped it up, put it on a hill.
Sometimes the second pass, is a better. You
punch it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Your second draft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You bring in some comedians. You punch it up. Get some pizza and Diet Coke.
You read the room.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So
the people want wine. Do they want loaves and fishes? You just got to
who knows,
work the crowd.
Just think if they kept doing a gospel every few years, like they do Fast and Furious movies, how great it would have been by now.
What's the Middle Eastern equivalent to what plays in Peoria?
I don't know.
Pretoria?
That was pretty
South
funny.
Africa.
That's not. Yeah, I know.
That was good.
It was as close as I could get.
American geography, people. You're welcome, world.
Okay, so the Sermon on the Plain in the book of Luke is only part of one chapter, but in the book of Matthew they punch it up. It's 3 chapters. 5, 6, and 7, and it's on a hill now. It's on the mount. And so it's each of the Beatitudes consists of 2 phrases. There's a condition and a result. It's a very specific linguistic trick that's never used again in the Bible. So in almost every case, the condition is from an Old Testament context, and then Jesus puts his new spin on it.
Okay.
So the Sermon on the Mount is the longest unbroken speech by Jesus in all of the Bible. And it is pretty full of...
It was his Friday Night Lights.
It was his free bird. That's right.
Can you do, when you read it to us, I assume you're going to read some of it to us, will you do it as, do you do like a Seinfeld? Because it feels like that's what it should be.
Blessed are the peacemakers. That's my best Seinfeld. Isn't that sad? Jesus. Like the most easily parodied comedian ever. I can't even.
What's the deal with peacemakers?
There you go.
You know what? It's probably, I'm wrong. It's probably more of a Foxworthy thing. It's a setup and a pun. It's his. It's like the you might be a redneck, but it's
you
like,
might be a peacemaker.
if you're a peacemaker, you might be blessed. I don't know.
All right,
We'll
so
work on it.
The Sermon on the Mount covers a ton of ground. So it's Jesus Christ talking his specific teachings on murder, adultery, marriage, lying, loving your enemies. The Lord's Prayer is in the Sermon on the Mount.
Oh, God.
Not judging, and a shit ton more. It is like, there'll be chapters of any of these books where nothing happens. This is where everything's packed in. He has a very specific emphasis and view on the wealthy and wealth. Any guesses?
He worships it, and it's the best thing ever.
I'm going to turn now to the book of Osteen. Yeah, it's funny. Like, basically half of what Jesus said is that fuck rich people.
And it's so clear.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no mention of capital gains taxes. There's no mention of corporate marginal tax rates. It's very specific.
Right.
That you need to cast off your wealth.
Much like anybody that works at a free clinic or a social worker that serves the homeless and the indigent, who probably constantly are saying "fuck the rich."
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
He was a social worker.
Absolutely. He was an itinerant, carpenter. Well, we assume that, and whose attitude on the rich was probably like anybody else at that time and place.
Right.
So, I just it's so funny because I think about this attitude, this whole like don't be rich, cast off your money, and I think about the Mitt Romneys of the world, and and those who profess to follow Jesus and yet have gazillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I just think to I'm like, yeah, you're a hypocrite. And then I think about my father-in-law, and I'm like, nobody tell him about these verses because the last thing I need is for that guy to give away all of his riches before he passes away.
Jesus. Okay, Dad.
So now I'm realizing that that hypocrisy is a little understandable. Like I get it on some level. Whoa.
Well, and also that the Osteens and the Mitt Romneys of the world, who are very, very, very faithful to Jesus,
right?
Yet believe in this, which I believe is in Matthew, isn't it? Where the prosperity gospel kind of springs out of the parable of the talents. We can talk about another time.
Yeah, we'll talk about another time.
But how, yes, they're rich, which is something Jesus said, don't fucking do that. And they point the finger at poor people and say, well, you're poor because of some spiritual failing.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Isn't that delightful?
You fucked up. That's why you're poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
It's just
That's not what your fucking book
Stop
says.
being Christian. God
Right.
damn it.
Right,
You don't have to be Christian. You're making me really angry.
Osteen would still have to be Christian. Otherwise, I guess he could walk and he'd be fine. Like all he has to do is just leave it, and he'll still have millions.
Or
and millions
he could
of
go
dollars.
back to what the original purpose of the church he locked flood refugees out of was, and just have a basketball team.
Sure.
Or
sure.
a band. He has a band, doesn't he? He's one of those.
Or he could work.
churches,
He
isn't
could work with teeth. That seems to be something he's very comfortable with.
Please Google a picture of Joel Osteen smiling.
Fuck that guy.
Okay, so back to the Beatitudes. In the book of Luke, it's only 3 verses.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're very short. I had really thought there was a lot more to these, but there really isn't.
Sure.
In the context of the sermon, it's just one small part, but it's a small part. So in chapter 6, verse 20 of the book of Luke, and he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, "Blessed be ye poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are ye that hunger now, for ye shall be filled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for ye shall laugh. Blessed are ye when man shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast you out, cast your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. That's it. That's the Beatitudes in Luke.
Okay.
So,
what does that last one mean?
That one needs work.
Yeah, totally. You can tell this was version 1.
Yeah. Let's punch that up a little bit.
I think it means if you're someone who's being bullied or people are being mean to. I'm being serious.
Yeah. I think so too.
Right. If you're friendless. And, yeah.
And in my name's sake, you're blessed.
Why couldn't he just say if you're friendless and alone?
Well, I'm sure that in the other versions of the Bible, which I did look at a couple, but didn't want to go down that path. The more modern versions, that's kind of what it.
Do you think
it's at?
I can't believe this would be true, but do you think monks who illuminated Bibles got paid by the word? Like
Job security.
Yes, they just kept fucking adding, just kept bulking it up.
All right, so let's hit the Beatitudes in Matthew.
Yes, please.
And these are the ones you'll recognize. Chapter 5, verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Okay.
Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted.
So we've gone from poor to poor in spirit.
Yeah.
So we've eased up on the whole rich guy thing. Well, on the whole poor person thing.
There was some. I read about someone's interpretation of poor in spirit is actually people who've given away their worldly possessions.
Oh.
But I don't know if I ascribe to that.
Poor.
Yeah, that's just poor.
Yeah,
but done
right.
so for righteousness' sake. But yeah, you're right. We've gone from being straight up poor to poor in spirit.
Okay. Whatever.
Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
You got to have some balls to take care of the earth. Like you can. It's fucking crazy out there.
I do love the idea though of
a bunch of homebody,
a bunch of very meek people going, what do we do with this now? I don't know what to do.
Like the least qualified people to inherit the earth.
It's a fucking wilderness.
We're going to mismanage this thing into the ground.
Yeah.
Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled.
Sure.
Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Great.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Great.
Blessed are the peacemakers, or the cheesemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed
the
are
cheddar
they
of God.
Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake.
Okay, so it's the same list essentially.
Yeah, there's 4 of the same ones.
Yeah.
Matthew just expounds that he adds those that mourn, the meek, the merciful, the pure in heart, the peacemakers. That's it. So that's really the entirety of the Beatitudes.
It basically says, it's every kid hiding in his mom's basement because he doesn't have any friends in school is a torture for him. It basically says, look, get through this. On the other side, it's going to be okay.
Oh, but following that, if it's the fucking meek, do you know what that means? That means, speaking of people in their mom's basement, these 4chan troll motherfuckers inherit the earth.
I think that's an unintended consequence of the Beatitudes.
I feel like once you troll, you stop being meek. Once you start trolling, that's not the act of a meek person.
We have to go to the judges on that one. I don't know.
So, other than that, I mean, they're just very, very vague. I mean, it's horoscope level niceties. I mean, there's no specifics about what does it mean to be pure in heart? What does it mean to be a peacemaker? What do you know? I don't know.
Well, and not only are the conditions not entirely clear, the reward is not tremendously clear either.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Very general.
Look, blessed are those that mourn; they should be comforted. Great.
Oh,
but if you're meek, you get the fucking planet.
You get a Earth. I'm sad. Well, okay. Well, you'll get to feel better. But are you also meek? Because frankly, I can't give you Earth without it.
Well, you know what I think they are? I think the Beatitudes, as you've read them, are the common axle of the world, all the world's quote, using scare quotes
for sure,
great religions, which is, this life sucks.
Yeah.
So behave yourself. Don't rock the boat. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're meek and let the centurions kick you around or whatever, or pay your taxes, then it's going to be great.
Right.
Well, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, it isn't. It isn't going to be great. You got to make it great now.
Agreed.
Make it great now.
You can't.
Don't be meek.
Don't
be poor in spirit.
Right. And for the love of God, don't mourn.
Don't ever mourn.
And not for nothing, but again, these are a litany of attributes that we are meant to aspire to, none of which are embodied by a certain president, who is the titular head of the Christian movement in this country now. Fucking weird.
Yeah.
There's a little coda to this in the book of Luke. After the much abbreviated version of the Beatitudes, there are the Four Woes.
Oh dear.
Geez.
So there's just a handful of little woes. I know. But woe unto you that are rich, for ye have received your consolation. Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep. Damn.
Fuck.
Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets.
So if you're highly regarded in your community, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it kind of cancels out all the good stuff that just happened, doesn't it?
Yeah, the laughing one is scary.
I know.
I mean that's getting a little Joe Pesci on you. Oh, am I a clown here to amuse
funny to you?
Oh, is it funny? Is there something funny here?
For some reason, when you said Joe Pesci, I thought you were talking about Joe Piscopo, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. He's never made anybody laugh.
Yeah, but you know what? You've never seen those two guys in the same room at the same time.
So true.
Pescopo.
So, like so many other parts of the Bible, the Beatitudes seemed so daunting until you actually crack them open, and it's just not a lot there.
You know what? It's the whole Bible is 1,000 pages. It's literally it's like 900 pages of blah, 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 that's just crap. That's just, so and so begat so and so, and then squoze in there in places that you least expect. There's like the stuff that people actually quote,
Right.
And that's that.
Yeah, and even that, the Beatitudes are supposed to be this amazing, call to be a better person, or Jesus reaching to the lowliest. And I'm sure in Iron Age Palestine, lowly was a pretty large slice of the demographic,
Right.
But even that, it's vague and basically meaningless, and it's just like.
I don't know if you ever saw this. I'm sure you guys haven't, since I happen to have tested your Monty Python knowledge just earlier today and been pleasantly surprised. There's a video of after the Life of Brian came out where I think it was Eric Idle and John Cleese were on a panel on the BBC with a couple Anglican, and was it Palin?
It was Palin.
Yeah. With like an Anglican minister and I think a Catholic priest or something like that, who were berating them for having made this movie that was in their mind blasphemous.
Right.
And their point was actually this whole story happens adjacent to Jesus.
Right.
That's the comedy of it. Is Jesus, the only time Jesus is in it is in that scene where he's giving the Sermon on the Mount.
Right.
And you pan back so far.
He's too
you can't
far
hear
away
him anymore.
Right.
And
I think he said, "Blessed are the cheesemakers."
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very funny movie. But these guys were this priest was saying, you even sullied the most glorious utterance ever spoken by a human in history with the Beatitudes.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't really think these are that beautiful.
Have you read it, Padre? Because huh?
Right.
If anything, it's really about it. Just is, and I get it. If anything, it's a pain to class anxiety.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and in a book of really terrible things, it is one of those that is not terribly terrible. So,
It's the least terrible. It's the least garbage. So yay.
Hey,
So-
this garbage smells okay.
Well, that was beautiful. And with
God
that,
damn it.
let's move on.
Okay, fine.